Well, hi, I'm Courtney. Welcome to my channel where we discuss educational research one study at a time so that you can incorporate it into your practice. This video is the fourth in a series all about helping parents encourage reading in their home and teaching their own children to read. If you haven't already, go check out videos 1, 2, and 3. They will catch you up to where we are today. All right, let's get started. Tip number 1 is to point out patterns in words as kids are reading. So if you notice that there's a Y on the end of a word, you can point out and say, look, whenever I see a Y on the end of the word, it's saying the E sound, just like EE. It's only when it's on the end of the word though, otherwise it's saying yeah. That way you can help your child build connections between what some of the rules of reading are. You can also point out, oh look, I see the word AND says and we know that every time we see AND it says and. This word says HAND. Hand. I wonder what other words we could make that way. So just building those connections that if you already know something, you can use that to make your future learning a lot easier. Tip number 2. The letters B, D, P, and Q are terrible. They all look the same. They're just the same letter tipped over or flipped or reversed or spun around. So it takes a long time for children to really work through those, and you might want to bang your head against a wall while you're teaching them. But stick with it, try and teach them little tips and tricks along the way, but just know that coming across those letters, if you're reading the word bat and the student says dat or pat, they're using the alphabetic code. They are sounding out. They're understanding that it's a symbol, they're just not understanding that that symbol has to be in the same position every single time. Tip number 3, if you're teaching your child to read at home because their classroom uses whole language, you have an uphill battle to climb, because in school they'll be taught reading strategies, not supported by any of the research, and these reading strategies are a heck of a lot nicer and more fun than what you're going to be teaching at home using phonics. That's because they have things like eagle eye, where we just look at the pictures and guess the word. Or we only pay attention to the first letter. I think that's like lips the fish. There's one where you only pay attention to the first letter. It's important to tell your child what happens at school and what happens here happens here. We don't want to penalize them for using the strategies at school, even though they're not the correct strategies that should be taught. However, that can't interfere with what you're doing at home. So just say, yep, when it's at school, that's awesome, but here we're not going to use that. We're going to just focus on the letters and sounding out. We have different ways of reading, and that is totally cool. Now, the only strategy that I do not mind is chunky monkey when students are getting into the bigger words. So that's where you're just chunking out words and going basically syllable by syllable and reading each syllable and putting them together. So if they're really keen on those strategies, you can be like, hey, has your teacher taught you chunky monkey? We're going to use that today as we sound out the word elephant. Tip number 4 is, again, if your child is in a class where they are receiving whole language instruction, it's really hard to ignore the report card, but we need to. If you're seeing progress at home and you are working with your child and you're seeing actual reading, and if you can test this out by making up a word that you could decode, so write out NIV, and have your child read it out. If they can read NIV and you can see that progress is happening, then you're gonna have to really stick to your guns here and ignore what you see on the report card, because it won't necessarily look like they're able to read in school. They're not necessarily using the strategies in school that they're being taught. When children take time to really work through sounding out a word, that gets penalized in classrooms where they're using a whole language approach. So ignore the report cards, tune it out, and it's hard. It's so hard, especially if you're competitive, to see, oh, they're just not where I think they should be. Tune it out, and by grade 4, you should see a big improvement, because the reading instruction programs tend to simmer down and we're focusing on just actual reading. So if you've done a good job by grade 4, it will all balance out anyways. But I don't like having like a record of poor reading in my house. Like, I don't want that on documentation, but tune it out, because we want to do what's best for our kids. We don't want to pander to a system that isn't teaching them properly. And tip number 5 is to put books everywhere and make it a preferred option. A big part of children being good readers is having lots of practice and being motivated to read. Let them read any chance you get. read with them, have them practice if they like reading. If they have downtime and they're wondering what to do, stick a book in their hands, have books available in the car, have books available while they're waiting for things so that they get the practice, because good readers have a lot of experience with reading and it's a cumulative effect over their lifetime. So the more we can get them to read when they're younger, the better off they are in the long run. Thanks so much for sticking with me while we went through all of these tips and tricks. If you have more ideas, I would love to hear them in the comments so that we can create a supportive community of parents who are just trying to help their kids to read at home. It's okay if it doesn't look like it does on Pinterest. It's okay if you're not snuggled up all cozy together and reading. It's okay if it's chaos around you. As long as you and the person you're trying to read are sitting down and focused and getting it done, that's what matters. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Please like, comment, and share with other people so that we can reframe what reading at home looks like. Have a great day. Bye.